I'm going to start letting people in.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the January SLT meeting. My name is Shivali Korgankar. I am the Student Union President and also the SLT co-chair. Today's facilitator is going to be a last-minute step-in with Ms. Maggio, and then our secretary is going to be Dr. Haber. So I'm just going to hand it off to Ms. Maggio.
Hey, everybody. Well, happy January. I hope everyone's staying warm. We're going to get started with our agenda, which is the minutes from last month. So if everybody wants to take a second and look over the minutes and let us know if there's any changes or corrections that need to be made. I'm like taking a look around to see if I have any hands raised. Otherwise, if someone wants to, motion to approve.
Can I just say quick, they still got the hyphen in the wrong place in my name. They fixed it the last time. The hyphen is between Nowodec and Moore. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Maggio, my first name they spell it long. I sent it to the secretary. It should be Miaona. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dang. Ms. Daves, were you secretary last time?
Yes, I was. Could she spell that again? I thought I had it correctly. Let's see. I'm looking at her.
I think it's MAI, not MIA.
Miao.
MIAO. Okay.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah, they spell like MIOA.
Got it.
Sorry, so I want to make sure my name is on the list also. It was on last time, and I checked just now, and it seems it's still not on. So, can you help check?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Thank you. Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve? Shivali, thank you. Do I have a second? Brian, awesome. Okay, cool. Do we all say yay? Yes.
Yay. Approve.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Next. Where's our agenda? Going into our updates. So we'll start with Principal U.
Thanks, Ms. Maggio. Good evening, everyone. Happy 2022. So just a few updates on our end. Again, this is it's been an interesting month, particularly as we were closing out December and then entering January. We've been in person, and similar to the things that we saw across the city was also happening at Stuyvesant. We did get a surge in COVID cases, and again, we were making some adjustments, particularly near the end of December, where we paused on some after-school activities, and we continue that through January. But things look like they're starting to settle down for us, particularly around the positive COVID cases, which is a good sign. And again, just continuing to stay on top of the conditions. Some of the measures that we took in January was to do mass distributions of test kits, just because we did see, again, a surge or an increase in positive cases, and we wanted to make sure we could try to take as many preventive measures as possible. So we did that, and we've done that, I think, 3 times so far. We'll continue to do the mass distribution, assuming we have the inventory, and we'll continue to monitor the conditions itself. We are entering today was the last day for marking period 3, so we're closing in on finalizing the fall term. We do have senior grades that will be due so that we can make sure that we are updating mid-year transcripts. So our senior grades are going to be due on the 31st at noon, and then all our other grades are due on February 4th. So again, we've had to make some slight adjustments, just knowing some of the challenges that we've had from the positive COVID cases to some technical difficulties and issues with pupil path. So trying to make as many adjustments on the fly as possible to also accommodate the various issues that continue or that happened in January. Additionally, while we're doing that, we're simultaneously working on our spring programming so we can make sure that that's ready to go starting on February 2nd. February, is that right on the date? February 2nd, which will be the start of the spring term. So our programming team is working on that, and we'll have that finalized very shortly so that we can get that information out to students, staff, and families. Additionally, just with what I mentioned before around after-school activities, again, as I said before, starting in December, we made some adjustments. We put a pause on a few of the activities, after-school activities, and we did that in January. So far, we were not having spectators for our PSAL teams, and then we were pausing on all the after-school activities except for those that had an active supervisor. Because conditions have improved a bit, we're now allowing parent/guardian spectators for our PSL activities, and then our after-school activities that continue to have active supervision. We're opening up those again as well. One thing that we're making plans for is preparation for Sing, Sty Squad, and some of the other activities that will be taking place in the spring with the condition that things will continue to improve as it has been. And again, keeping our fingers crossed, but we've been in conversation with the students and staff who are coordinating some of these efforts. So again, keeping our fingers crossed, trying to move forward with all of the kind of annual traditions and things that we've done to make sure we can do it safely. And then finally, just with addition to the spring events, again, we're going to continue to monitor all of the conditions. We do still have to plan for the key spring events such as in-school SAT, the AP exams, different annual events such as graduation. So all of those have been in coordination and communication with a variety of stakeholders. So again, unless something dramatically changes, we will continue to do and put forth the planning efforts to make sure that we're ready to go on all of the different activities that are anticipated and expected. And then lastly, we do have a new, clearly we have a new mayor and a new chancellor. So again, I think the new administration is continuing to fill out and better understand some of the initiatives that are currently happening, as well as what they may want to put in place. So we're keeping a close eye on that as well, just to see what policy changes may occur. So we'll continue to stay on top of that, just to ensure that we're moving forward. And again, with any new administration, we want to keep a close eye on any new initiatives and or policy adjustments that may happen. So that's the update from the principal.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Daves. You're up.
Yep, sure. So from the UFT, the consultative committee has finalized the SBO voting guide, and that will be released.
207 in a meeting.
Released to staff soon. Maybe somebody could meet Dr. Haber. Yeah, okay. Also, alongside the students getting COVID tests, the staff gets them as well. So there was a little bit of coordination there. With the number of students that are quarantining, there's an increased number of teachers that are offering office hours as per the memorandum of agreement between the UFT and the DOE. So I've been working to answer any questions staff have surrounding those. And there were some vacation days that were awarded to staff based on arbitration ruling as staff worked during spring recess during spring of 2020. And helping work out some of the HR issues with Dr. Haber. And that's my UFT report.
Awesome. Parents, how you doing, Mr. Shaffron?
Doing great. Thank you, Ms. Mandro. Hello, everyone. So from the PA perspective, we have our monthly January general meeting tomorrow, January 25th, and we're going to have a special presentation by E2 Tambien, YTT, that many of you already know, but those parents who don't, or those students who don't, and that's a great free college access application program that, worth considering. So that will be kind of a good informational session. Our tech committee has been hard at work, both supporting the STC, helping them record with alternative angles. Now we're making arrangements to do the same with the STI squad, and we'll see any other needs that the parents committee, tech committee can help and again support the hybrid mode or the tech needs. We're here for that. A lot of activity on the annual Spring Feast. We have originally our Spring Feast date, Spring Feast event annual celebration was planned for April 1st. We shifted the date to May 6th. We are planning to have this as an in-person event. We are working very hard to make it not only a great community event, but also one of the biggest fundraisers, as we always do. So a lot going on. So raffle is up and the auction is being prepared. So it's really, there's a lot of great activity there. Academic Affairs Committee has done actually a lot of subcommittee work, and there's a meeting scheduled to talk with Dina about some of the next steps that we would like to take on there. There's a great Cooking with Stuyvesant on February 13. It's a Lunar New Year edition. It's a virtual event. So the link is both in the PA news and in Dina's e-news. So it's a really fun activity. And I believe I was told that the dish is the walnut shrimp. Go log in and learn how to do it. And last but not least, there is our senior committee is also working quite actively, and we're partnering with school and supporting the graduation needs, but we're also working on some special experience for STI families and certain things that we can offer. So that is still also in the works. Few other things are pending, but that's in brief.
Thanks so much, Mr. Shafran. Shivali, what's up with the students?
Yes, so we are obviously still working virtually with clubs, and we are trying our best to encourage clubs to continue hosting meetings, whether it be a virtual platform or if they have advisors in person. And then in terms of things that are happening in person, we are working with SING coordinators to begin interviews for the producers, and then also selecting themes and getting their crews together before February when they begin practicing. There's also STI Squad coming up, like Principal you mentioned. So we're helping them out with merch and potential like live streaming. We are also continuously working with seniors and the Indicator, which is Stuyvesant's yearbook, to set up fundraising activities and get together senior quotes and also the graduation packages before our graduation at the end of the year. And then Student Union is also hosting our own virtual events. We had a speedfriending event last week. We also have a Family Feud coming up in the coming weeks by the Junior Caucus. And then the last thing we've been working on are surveys. So in continuation with our discussion from the last meeting about gender neutral restrooms and general awareness of non-binary students' experience at Stuyvesant, we sent out a survey with the help of Mixed Susan, trying to figure out the experiences of non-binary and gender non-conforming students at STI. And we're still continuing responses. So we wanted to give ourselves a little bit more time so we can make sure that we got a more representative group of data, but we're hoping by the next meeting we will have a presentation to share with all of you. And then once that round of surveying is finished, we also are working with the Big Sibs to finalize our homeroom survey and send that out at some point. Yeah, that's all from us.
Awesome. Big thank you to everybody. We are currently 20 minutes ahead of schedule, which just makes me super excited. I would like to now introduce
Ms. Maggio, can I just say one last thing? Sorry, there's one last update.
Absolutely, Ms. Principal.
One public announcement as well. John Brennan, who was our custodial engineer, and I'm sorry, I should have said this sooner, but John actually left to go to another campus. He and his team have done a phenomenal job for Stuyvesant. And again, last Thursday was his last day really just exceptional. Great team still there. We have a temporary custodial engineer named Manny Rodriguez, and so far everything's been fine. We will have a permanent one at some point when they go through the process, but I wanted to at least acknowledge John Brennan. He's contributed so much to the entire building and to the entire staff. But just please know the building is in good hands with Mr. Rodriguez and the team, and we're continuing to make sure that the building continues to stay maintained and safe as we move forward.
All good? Super sad. I love John. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce our social workers. Arlene, okay, I'm so sorry, I'm going to kill your last name. Arlene Novaris and Patty Hennessy.
Hi. If I can just add real quick, we also have Danny Thompson, who is the therapist on site from the Jewish Board, and she will definitely share with our audience what the Jewish Board is. So, sorry, who did I interrupt? Did I interrupt Arlene? Okay. Well, real quick, a little overview. I'm Casey Pedrick, the assistant principal of the school counseling department, and we are very, very fortunate to have many school counselors and college counselors to help support your students. But we also have some additional social workers who are able to provide another layer of support for our students. So for many, many years, we've had a very lovely partnership with Jewish Board, which, even though it says it in the name, you do not have to be Jewish to be a client of the Jewish Board, but they are their own organization and they place therapists in school settings, and students are able to visit their therapists right there on site and don't have to worry about traveling or having to choose therapy over robotics, therapy over spectator kind of thing. And then this year we established a partnership with an organization called Counseling in Schools, which has placed another social worker within our school. Patty will chat about that. And then for some years now, we have had a full-time social worker on our staff as part of our counseling department, and that this year is Arlene Novaris. So little overview of our offerings in addition to the school counseling and college counseling. So, oh, Danny, you're on the early side to head on out for another obligation. So perhaps you want to kick us off?
Thank you, Casey, for remembering. Hi, everyone. I'm Danny Thompson. As Casey said, I am the therapist who works with the Jewish Board. Basically, in my role, I am a psychotherapist, and it's as if I am a one-woman mental health clinic stationed within Stuyvesant. And so I'm a little different than the services that the guidance counselors or Arlene, Ms. Novaris provides, just because I am strictly a mental health professional. So essentially, in order to see me, it'd be like going to see someone at any mental health clinic. So there is insurance involved. So how the process works is I typically get referrals from either guidance counselors or Ms. Novaris. They send them to me, just basic demographic info as well as insurance info. And then I send that over to our administration with the Jewish Board, and they find out if there's a copay or anything like that. And then afterwards, we'd do an intake session, which is kind of getting just the basics of what you're feeling, what's going on, and why you think you need therapy. And once that's out of the way, we'd start meeting weekly. I typically see students once a week in my office, which is located in the Dean's Suite. And they typically come during a free period. So yeah, I think I covered it all. Any questions?
Yeah, Ms. Maggio, how do you want to do that? Do you want them all to chat and then open for questions, or?
Well, if she's on a time crunch, I guess we can take any questions now. I mean, it's up to the social workers how they want to do it. If they want to take questions after each section, I'm down for either way.
Danny doesn't have to leave at like 6:23, so we're good. So how about if we just switch gears and we'll go from one CBO to another? Patty, would you like to take the next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Patty Hennessy, a program manager from Counseling in Schools. I've been with Counseling in Schools for 14 years now, 7 years doing the direct service, and then for the past 7 years, I've been a program manager. And I'm representing the organization, including Sapphire, who is the counselor at Stuyvesant, providing the direct services. She is an LCAT, licensed creative arts therapy. So she kind of like employs art and as a form of expressing oneself. She does individual sessions similar to what Danny does, you know, and also she does, she has an open art studio, which is after school, and that is open to anybody. She, as far as the individual sessions, most of those referrals come similar to Danny from guidance or self-referred. She's lately been getting some referrals from parents because she's now facilitating monthly parent workshops for the Chinese speaking parents. And she also, through that kind of avenue, is now doing 1-hour consultations with parents. They will generally email her and they'll set up a time, she'll do a consultation. And so some referrals come directly from parents, as long as students are open and willing to engage. And also she's co-facilitating a drop-in kind of group with the teacher as well. So let's see, our organization is different from the Jewish Board in that there is no insurance. Everything is just free and open. Sapphire will basically do a kind of an assessment with students and determine what would be the best level of care. Mostly it's 1 session a week. Some students require more support. She'll do 2 sessions a week. She's also assessing students from her individual sessions that maybe there's like a common trend or need, and creating smaller groups based on those needs. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Great, wonderful. Bringing it back home, Arlene Novaris.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone and meet everyone. So I facilitate a lot of the referrals to the community-based organizations in-house. I have to say it's invaluable to have therapists in-house with so much mental health services right now occurring solely via telehealth, that our students can actually see someone face-to-face and be with someone face-to-face and have someone available throughout the day. Is, you really can't put a price on that right now. So aside from making referrals to these amazing partners, I also see the students with IEPs for mental health counseling. And for those students that we can't refer, unfortunately, to Danny or to Sapphire, I help facilitate referrals to outside organizations. I'm also available for crisis situations. So anything that might come up during the school day for students where they're in distress, I'm there to meet with them and meet their needs and make referrals, or be that bridge, that support for them until they find the help that they need.
And Arlene, you also take care of the mandated counseling for our students who have counseling as part of their IEP supports.
Yes, so I provide the counseling for the IEP students.
Okay, so that's a little bit about what our mental health aspects are outside of the traditional social, emotional, academic, school counseling, or college counseling that we offer. We have 3 fantastic resources that are presented to you. Of course, we always could use more. So if anybody wants to throw a bag of money, throw a bag of money our way, we can do that. We
totally took that the wrong way.
I will rename the counseling suite in honor of your donation. No, we won't get into all that. Okay, but yes, we are very, very proud of being able to have these relationships and partnerships and being able to offer these items to your students and having a continued commitment from the leadership to have the school counseling department's student to counselor ratio stay lower than the national average to allow some of the more high quality interactions with our students to be able to take place, because definitely other schools, sometimes it's a little Grand Central in the school counseling department. So it's very nice that our students are actually able to sit and have sessions with our school counselors. So yeah, I guess we'll open up for any questions.
Shivali, what's up?
I just like I guess for more context, in what situation would a student come to you all versus a student going to a school counselor? And is it necessary to like be redirected to you guys, or is there a situation where a student would go directly to one of you?
Yeah, let me jump in real quick and just say that for Danny relies on the referral process. So a school counselor or Arlene saying, here's a student, if you're able to, meet with them and see if this is going to be a good partnership, that can be done that way. And then Sapphire's caseload is occurring organically in that same way as well. But then also, we really love that she's able to offer these drop-in sessions for students. So in addition to the after-school offerings in Mr. Wrigley's classroom, she and Ms. Kornhauser have also collaborated and are offering a 4th period drop-in for art as well, art therapy, because it's nice to be able to do some creation and have some talk facilitation as well. And then Arlene is definitely available to pop in. I think it's a great idea to have a relationship with the school counselor and bridge that, because it's going to be a definite partnership. But Arlene, do you have any other thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can email me or just stop by my office or go to your counselor, and the counselor can then reach out to me. There's no wrong door to knock on for help, is what I would say.
If I can add, I'd also say if students are looking for something more long-term rather than just looking for help in the immediate sense, that's something that I provide. I take on clients with the intention of seeing them for long periods of time rather than just like a couple of weeks or a month. So like most of my clients have been continuing students for the last few years at Stuyvesant, and so that's kind of the work process for me, is that it's long-term and ongoing.
Good point. Thank you.
Same as with counseling in schools.
Ryan, I saw that your hand was up and now it's down. Do you still have a question, or did they cover it?
Yeah. Oh wait, one more thing actually. So I think thank you guys for coming in. This is of course, a really good resource for students to use. So this is sort of a question and sort of a statement, as student representatives, and we're going to be definitely taking advantage of this and sharing this with the students, but also if you guys have any suggestions, I guess now or maybe even later, on how we can spread the word and whatnot, I think that definitely helped with the case at the moment.
Here's a little challenge I'll throw your way with spreading the word. It's great to share that we are doing these things, but Danny and Sapphire have, even Arlene has, limited capacity here, but they have actual appointments that are set up with clients that are continually coming back. So every Wednesday, 5th period, this student's coming. Every Thursday, 3rd period, this student is coming. So they're full. So you spread the word, we're going to have some disappointed people. Arlene sees our students who have counseling as part of their IEP supports on that regular basis. And other than that, she's bouncing around to the school counselors and collaborating in partnership and following up with various outside organizations. So spread the word like a whisper.
Let me also just say this really quickly as well. I mean, I think this is important. I mean, and I think Ms. Pedrick's hitting on this. I mean, ideally, students and their counselors and or teachers are building those relationships. And if there are definitive issues and things when we see concerns or issues or challenges, that communication starts with the staff members to one another. So, you know, whether it's Arlene, Danny, or Patty and Sapphire, like the goal here is to make sure that we are reaching out to the appropriate individuals so that we can make those connections. I mean, Ms. Petrick is right. Like part of what we're also, when we went in this direction and trying to make sure we had resources, was to be really thoughtful about, again, kind of what the issues are and then who might be the right individual who could provide support. So I think the number one thing would be that if students are having challenges or issues, please speak with your counselor. Because that's going to be the conduit to all of the other resources. And that allows us to have multiple people who are aware, again, about how we can best support the student. And I know there are, again, some things that in terms of those development of relationship, we're not going to turn anyone away per se, particularly around any emergencies, but we want to make sure that we have enough eyes and support so that we can at least direct them in the appropriate way.
Principal, you obviously had his afternoon cup of coffee that I did not have because that was perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the feedback and clarification.
Can I just add, though, I think we can spread the word about the open art studio that takes place after school. I know Sapphire has flyers, and we can continue to circulate them.
I definitely know there's a flyer still hanging up on that big pole for the 2-4 escalator right by the senior bar. So if you're happening by that tomorrow, check it out. Take a photo of it.
Any other questions? Am I missing anybody's hands?
I just have one question. General question. Is there anything you would like teachers to know, or
Arlene?
And also I'll just say, I assume that the pathway also is that the teacher would refer to the counselor and then the counselor would
Thank you. Yes.
follow up, right?
Can I jump in? I can say that part of our work is a lot of coordination, kind of case management, care coordination, and collaboration with key stakeholders, including teachers. So, you know, I guess for teachers to know that Sapphire is there and she may, you know, stop by and talk to them or email them, communicate about, you know, the various students that she's working with. And also available to, like, you know, kind of informal consultations with teachers if they, you know, kind of like have what, you know, questions about what should I do, hypotheticals, whatever. She's definitely available for that as well, as am I, and, you know, her backup team.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I always have time to speak with a teacher, or at least call me and I'll, you know, find time to speak with you. I guess for me, the barriers, I'm not always sure when teachers are free, what the office hours are, but I feel like teacher feedback is so valuable and I would love to get more of it, but I'm not always sure like when's the best time to reach out. So please feel free to reach out to me. You know, I want the teachers to know that I'm there as a resource for them, and any, you know, anything they're seeing in the classroom that's concerning, I want to be able to support them in addressing. So email, call, you know where to find me. I'm in the guidance suite.
Any other questions?
I'll just say a little plug real quick. Sorry, I do see a hand up to any of the parents who are in the audience to definitely encourage your child to stop by the counseling suite. They don't need to have an appointment to visit their school counselor, and they can just say hi or just do a quick little check-in. So bearing in mind that, you know, you never know when things pop up. And so they might pop in there and there might already be a teacher or a parent or student having an appointment. But, you know, we definitely encourage foot traffic in 236.
Ms. Zhu?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess I have a question on behalf of the parents. So anything that you think the parents need to pay attention to regarding kids' mental health, and also how to use this social worker service that we have. I remember like we already did monthly workshop to Chinese parents. I myself didn't attend, but I heard that if I remember correctly, the attendance is not so high. So I guess how we can better pass the information to our Chinese parents and all the parents. Thank you.
For the second part of that question, I'll leave that to the PA and Ms. Ingram, who would love to raise her hand. Ms. Ingram, go for it. I turned into the facilitator all of a sudden.
Thanks, Ms. Pedrick. I can't do the hand raise as the host. So I coordinated the first workshop with Sapphire for our Chinese speaking parents, and she did a fantastic job. We intentionally actually wanted to keep it a small workshop. Although we did extend it to all of our Chinese speaking parents. Traditionally, the workshops that are held during the morning hours do tend to be about between 35 and 45 parents. And that was where we were at. About 35 parents signed up. And we had a really great turnout for that small workshop. She was able to divide into small groups where parents worked together, and she had worksheets, and we had excellent feedback from that workshop. And that was Sapphire's intention with that workshop, to be able to break into small groups where the parents could actually share out and work together. And that was her presentation and the way that she worked up that workshop. So on a larger scale, when we do the Chinese outreach meeting in partnership with the Parent Association, and Alex Schafferin could expand upon that, those are larger presentations. And the one coming up next, we actually will have a conversation that's scheduled with Miss Cecilia Yang, one of our school counselors that partners with the Chinese Outreach Committee. Miss Sapphire will be joining that one as well, to be addressing a larger group of Chinese speaking parents. So they're just different types and different ways we work with the families, but that one was intentionally done on a smaller scale.
Miss Ingram, I do also believe, Miss Ingram, that a lot of this information is in the weekly update every week. Am I correct?
Yeah, we did report on it. We do try to put it there. Thanks, Ms. Maggio. And we do put the art therapy workshops in there too. So yeah, thanks for that plug. We do encourage all the parents to check it out.
I was going to address Ms. Zhu's first part of her question, but Mr. Schafran, do you have a new question, or are you going to add on to that last piece?
I just wanted to add a little bit more. So as one of the things that we're working on as part of the general PA meeting programming, as Dina mentioned, we're looking forward to a session in March that is going to be presenting the guidance department and the resources that are available to all the STI students and parents in terms of support. So it will be a dedicated session just focused on this. So your question, Lindsay, was just the timing was just impeccable. So it's a great plug-in. We didn't send the the registration because we still have the next one coming up, but this will be in March.
Awesome. So to go back to the beginning part of that question, which is what is something that parents can do? If my social work friends will allow me, I'll answer kind of STI specific, since I've been around a little longer. And then if you want to answer just like parental support of children's health in general, that'd be great. So from a STI point of view, it's a lot of the things that we chat about, Ms. Ingram and I, when we do like the freshman parent orientation or the sophomore parent workshop in the fall, is about helping you to see your child as your son or daughter, not so much as the STI student. So ask them non-STI related questions. So rather than having all your conversations be, how was that test? When do you have that paper due? That kind of thing. It can be things like, if you could have any power, like a superpower, what would you like to have and why? If you could travel back in time and witness an historic event, what would you witness and why? And have those types of conversations to try to get to know your child as a child and not just as a peg leg. And then also we would love to be able to have our parents just in general allow their children and or encourage their children to join some of our fantastic clubs, and publications, because being able to build those relationships with their peers and have the emotional support of their fellow Flow teammates, or as sports, beading, origami, all of these things are really wonderful ways. It might seem silly, it might not seem like, or how is bead club going to get you into college? But really being able to build those relationships and have that be part of something that helps them be successful at Stuyvesant is a good investment of their time. So please encourage your students to join some clubs and publications and some sports teams. So,
Principal Yu, what's up?
Yep. So just want to just again, quick shout out to Arlene, Danny, and Patty, and Sapphire, and the whole counseling team, all our staff and student leaders. Again, we get these presentations often in isolation, but please know, like, there's so many different parts that are connected. So just even the after school activities are a big reinforcement around the different connections that young people have. And again, I mean, that's big tribute to the SU and really pushing forward and getting that to happen, along with PSAL, with the counseling, the things that happen during the school day. So, while often we talk about kind of one thing, please know there are all these connections that I believe, contribute and add to the overall kind of health of the school community. We do want to continue to do the things that, again, allow students to have outlets, allow them to have resources, as well as, families also having that as well. But, one other thing that I think is also important, this has been a really challenging year for staff. It's equally as has been challenging for students and families. And I know that, again, the goal here is to be there for our young people, but also recognizing too, our adults are going through this as well. I'm sure all the families are dealing with it as well. So I think, the key message that Ms. Pedrick said is just around the communication. As difficult and as challenging as that is at times, particularly under certain circumstances, that's the goal. And as challenging as they may be, we still have to have them. And so, again, we want to just make sure that people are aware that there is a larger strategy here, particularly with all the things that we've been trying to do and say yes to. I keep that in my head, like, what are the ways that we can say yes to the different things that have made Stuyvesant, again, the place that our young people can really be successful. So again, thanks to the counseling team and our partners in all of this work. This has been, again, really amazing that we've been able to have the resources, and we do want, to utilize them.
Thank you, Principal Yu. Thank you, Ms. Pedrick, and all of our presenters. Do we have any last questions or comments before I move on to the next part of our agenda? Principal Yu, your hand is still up. I'm guessing you forgot. Excellent. Excellent. Look at us just moving along, my friends. Okay, so we are at the spiral of communication, and as I am kicking in for Mr. Henderson today, I don't actually know who's leading this discussion, so can someone fill me in on that one?
Yeah, we didn't really have a presentation planned for this section, but we wanted to have a small discussion around the spiral of communication, which currently exists as students uplifting concerns directly to teachers, and if the next step would be going to APs and then the principal. And there's been discussion over the years on like reform to the spiral of communication. So yeah, we just wanted to open up a discussion around possible changes that could be made.
Cool. So Chevalier, I'm just going to address really fast Ms. Pedrick's question. Our guests who are here, you guys are done. If you would like to log off and go, if you'd like to hang out for a bit and hear about spiral of communication, you are more than welcome to hang out with us. We appreciate you coming and enlightening us on what you do. I mean, would not be surprised. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Good night.
Y'all are lovely. Enjoy your Monday.
Thank you, too.
That's true, Dina. It is recorded. They can watch it later if they are dying to know the outcome. Do we have anything that shows the spiral of communication that we could share on screen for everyone to look at?
You give me 2 minutes, I can get it.
Thank you so much, Miss Ingram. And then I guess, Shivali, do you want to introduce whatever the issues or topics that it is that you want to bring forward?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
You can see that, right?
Okay, Charlie, you have the floor.
Sorry, I'm going to pass it to Nev, who's going to start us off.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so we just want to talk a little bit about this about communication, specifically like how students can utilize it, and especially how we can make, you know, certain reforms to it so that students feel more empowered to use it. So obviously the first step that's about communication is the student to go directly to their teacher to tell them that they're violating the spiral of communication, the homework policy or the testing policy. One issue that we've seen progressively with this is that a lot of students feel like they can't reach out to their teacher because they think that they're going to face some sort of punishment with the grade, or the teacher's attitude towards the student might change. And so a lot of students like to bypass this and go directly to the second step, which is to email the counselor, or step 3, which is to email the AP. Unfortunately, because like this about communication is set into place, I mean, obviously it's a great resource to have, but students, the APs or the guidance counselors will tell the student, you have to reach out to your teacher first. So, you know, it brings them back to step 1. So obviously we want students to follow us about communication. We don't want them to be like, you know, creating extra steps, bypassing certain steps, because obviously that puts more work for the APs and more work for guidance counselors. So we were thinking of, like, you know, different things that we could do to make that first step especially easier. We were thinking perhaps, well, this has been floated by a couple of times, the idea of some sort of anonymous form that students could fill out, so that then their name wouldn't be presented to the teachers. But I mean, I think that's come into SLT many times, and there are a lot of different reasons why we can't do that. I think that it's necessary for the student's identity to be revealed, because or else teachers could just be reported for no really apparent reason. So we were also thinking of somehow finding different ways to motivate students. The student union in particular maybe could, if students have repeatedly reached out and nothing has been done, or they have reached out and they face repercussions, the student union could, in their place, perhaps reach out to the teachers, or we could find some way to allow students to reach out to teachers in groups rather than individually, so then they don't face the same fear of repercussion. So yeah, we just wanted to talk about, we want teacher perspective, obviously, and everybody in SLT's perspective on different ways we could reform about communication, just to allow for better communication between the students and the teachers, and to make sure that students don't feel nervous or don't feel any qualms about reaching out.
Does anybody have any comments before I, as facilitator, would like to respond? Do I have any hands? I can't see everybody anymore. Okay. So I think Nev, I think you brought up a really good point. And I think the first thing that really needs to be addressed in that statement is the belief that everything that's brought to a teacher is going to have repercussions. And so my freshmen tell me all the time when they think that homework is too late, or when I've assigned something that they don't think that can be due on that day. And so I feel like what would be great if we can work on is this idea that everything I say to my teacher means my grade's going to get lowered. When we receive emails that are respectful and thoughtful and trying to tell us something that we either might not be aware of, or might have, you know, we make mistakes too, just like you guys. We're happy to respond to those and to fix whatever issues there are. We would rather you guys become advocates for yourselves than not, because that's one of the best skills that you're going to get as a young adult, to be able to speak up for yourself in those instances. And I think if we can address that issue from the start, I think the rest of the spiral of communication, when it's used properly, actually solves problems before it even needs to get to step 2 or 3. That's been my experience for the last 4 years since this program has been initiated. And I'd also like to point out really fast that the first step is to talk to your guidance counselor or your teacher. So there actually is 2 options in that first step, and the guidance counselor can then talk to us without revealing a student necessarily by name. So there actually is already an alternate step in that first step to get your concerns addressed by an adult in the building. Ms. Meltzer, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Okay, so the only hands I have up right now are for alternates, which I'm happy to call on all 3 of you. I just want to make sure if there's anybody, any SLT members that wants to talk before I call on the alternates. No? Cool. All right, Ms. Meltzer, your hand was up first. What's up?
Thanks, Ms. Maggio. It's Metzler.
So sorry.
It's okay. I completely agree with what you just said, Ms. Maggio. And one thing that might be helpful to students when they're advocating for themselves with a teacher, it's an exercise that we just undertook at I work at a very small company that I run with a partner. And we found that during the pandemic, because we're now largely working remotely, that we needed to find better ways to communicate with one another. And so someone pointed us in the direction of this exercise, which could be an interesting solution where we all came up with sort of what we call user manuals for ourselves. And it really just took a half an hour for us to kind of clearly write out for our partners, our work style, what I value, what I don't have patience for, how to best communicate with me, my typical schedule, how to help me. And, that is a way for people to understand how to communicate better with one another. And if kids are worried about, approaching their teacher, if they have some guidance from the teacher as to what's going to work best with them, that might be a helpful way to make the spiral of communication flow a little bit better. So anyway, I'm happy to share that. In fact, I'll share it in the chat if people are interested, but it's been great for communication among my colleagues and myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll just give a little plug to our principal that he sent that out to us, to the cabinet before he even started asking all of us those types of questions. So we have a leader who's doing it.
Nice. Miss Brandon?
Hello, all. So I also agree with you with Ms. Maggio is that we build that advocacy for our students. When a student approaches me, definitely we show them strategies on best ways to approach teachers, because we also know the teachers, and I'm speaking more in detail for our freshmen who don't know our teachers and their teaching styles. But I also agree with Ms. Meltzer in regards to, and I was going to draw this, that teachers should maybe communicate with the students on what is the best form to communicate with the teacher when there are concerns. So I agree on that, and I agree on you, Ms. Maggio, but realistically, there are some teachers that are very unapproachable. And I also would like to address that. So how do we come up with a plan for those teachers that are not as easy as approachable, and the students are scared of that retaliation that Nev also brings up? So that's what I have to say.
Ryan?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Maggio. And I just sort of want to forward what Ms. Brennan just said earlier. I think to frame it in a way, there are very approachable teachers and not so approachable teachers. And I think that sort of targeting this within the policy does display in itself some of the struggles that some students and or teachers have between just communication, advocacy for themselves, depending on whether side, and approachability, which I think that does open sort of this area of finding better solutions in ways how can we think of how we can think of ways of students to advocate for themselves, or teachers having that sort of approachability. And I just want to say that we're very fortunate that your students are able to talk to you, and that could be applied to many other teachers. But it is important to note that there are other students and other teachers that face different sort of circumstances.
Brian, I do see that, and I do understand that there might be some teachers who appear that way or that give off that vibe. But again, that is why you can then go to your counselor, who can act as the intermediary between you and that teacher. That's in that spiral of communication, if that is to the extent that you guys cannot. But that is why it is in that first level. Dr. Nedwick Moore.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the advocacy and just sort of talk about sort of timing. So one of the things that happens when a student has a concern, I emphasize with them that they should come to me first, because honestly, with me, the quickest way to get it fixed is to tell me first. I frequently, if there's an issue, I'm frequently unaware of it, like literally completely don't know. I mean, I may have a sense, but they're whispering about it and they're not telling me. So I'm like not getting it directly. If they go higher up, then it takes sometimes a week or two to get to me, because admins are really busy and they're dealing with a lot of things, and they can't necessarily talk to me about it right away. It really frequently results in the same outcome. It's just that for me, it's faster if the student comes to me. I understand that everybody's personality is different, but to be quite honest, frequently a teacher may not realize that they're doing something that is a problem, or they may not even be aware that there was a change in a calendar or something. These things happen because we try to pay attention, but it's just a lot to keep track of. I know it can be scary, but I do encourage students to work in small groups when they approach faculty, because then it means to us that it's not just one person, it's more than one person. And it really does result in quicker resolution and more to your benefit faster, because you always want that resolution quickly. And
thank you, Dr. Ned.
Happy New Year.
Patrick, Mr. Sunwoo?
Yep, I'll just say this really quickly is I think just echoing what Ms. Maggio said, I think respectful communication with teachers is paramount, but I think on the part of the students in terms of advocating for yourselves, don't be afraid to document what you've said to your teachers, and if you feel like there has been any form of disrespect, also document that to make sure that you can back yourselves up. I think that piece is always important. And I feel like students sometimes feel like, what am I going to do if they say this thing to me? But honestly, as long as you have something to back yourselves up, that's important as well. And you matter just as much in the spiral of communication as the teachers do.
Thank you, Mr. Sunwoo. Ryan?
Yeah, just one more thing. And also sort of echoing what Dr. Ned said in regards of contacting teachers is being the most efficient way in sort of resolving different issues. I do think that it is important to sort of have that emphasis within the spiral, and also just in general, and that to give it to a different constituency might just not be the most effective between teacher and student relationships, which is the primary purpose sort of in this policy.
Thank you, Ryan. Also, I don't know if I remember it or not, but at some point, wasn't there talk of sample emails to help students to draft if they needed to send to teachers? Neb, did I remember that correctly?
Yeah, we currently have those up on the student website with different situations, scenarios, and
just so I can say from record, I'm always happy to know if I've made a mistake or an error, but the emails that I get that are like, Ms. Maggio, you can't do this because you're breaking this rule and you have to change it now, aren't really the best ways to address the adults in the building. Just throwing that out there. Principal Leo.
Thanks. I'm just curious, and for the students who are on here, again, just one of the things I'm curious around is if you have 7 teachers, and I know it's different year, all of those different variables, but on average, just think about your experience. What percentage of the teachers did you have difficulty approaching? If you had 6 teachers in any given year, any sense of that? I don't know if you can even answer that question, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can try to answer that question. I think generally in my experience, around maybe 1 or 2, I would say one of my teachers frequently checks in with students about how long homework is taking. And then I would say maybe 2 are often breaking policies and students don't really say anything. And then I would say the rest is like, if there is a issue with the homework policy or any other policies, like it's easy to communicate with them. It's hard to like give specific numbers, but I think like, there are definitely teachers every year that you will feel uncomfortable reaching out to, but it's not the majority of your teachers.
Ryan?
Yeah, like I can't speak for all students, but like I've had very similar situations like Shivali. So there were like sort of a few scenarios similar to that. But I do want to sort of emphasize that like these teachers aren't bad people, but I think it's rather this sort of perception, like as Ms. Maggio said, like with students like not being able to like appropriately contact teachers in sort of a appropriate manner that's the most productive. And there's also this like sort of sense of, I would say, like teachers not being able to sort of reciprocate those sort of like this sort of openness in like getting responses and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I get a whole lot of, oh my God, you're so scary. You were so intimidating. I didn't want to ask you a question because you're so mean. And then like a month later, it's not the same thing. And I also think a really big point is like, as young adults, it is still scary to have to talk to an adult or address an adult about an issue like this. It's just not something that you guys are used to yet. But anyway, sorry, Principal Yu.
I appreciate you answering that. I mean, and I think that just, to me, showcases some of the complexity here. I mean, I think there's some Alice at one, we all just have to do a better job of communicating, particularly under kind of some stress and then some challenging conditions. So one, whether it's students and whether it's staff, we all can do a better job of being more approachable. So that's one thing. And then 2, I think, again, the reason why we made step 1 a teacher and or assigned school counselor was just that very reason, as you brought up. Like, again, we're still learning more about each other. We're still learning about modes of communication. But what we're hoping for is that there is an outlet or there is a way to communicate some concern or some issue. I do believe we have to get better about not being anonymous. I do think our staff, or the vast majority of staff, would appreciate hearing the feedback. I mean, again, if it's done professionally and politely, I think, again, we all make mistakes. I think our teachers want to know that, or want to know, like, hey, if I did forget something, just let us know. And I think our staff needs to do it, like, just ask the question. I think particularly under these constraints and and challenges, we have to be that additionally mindful of, again, just posing the question might be helpful. What I would say, too, going back to the last point or the point of my question, is that I think one of the things that we've created oftentimes is our policies, when essentially it's a smaller subset, right, that we do want to kind of work with. And the one thing I want to say about the spiral of communication, because we've kind of in some ways thinking about the words and the connections, like, I don't know what's been done in the past or not, but like all of these are meant to be conversations, whether or not they're easy conversations or not. The reason why I don't want the anonymity is because there's no way for us to have the direct conversations that need to happen if we're not speaking to those individuals. So some folks may not even know that they're doing what they're doing, but it's another thing if there is a pattern. And if there is a pattern that we can see and we know that we've addressed it and then it continues to happen, then that's a different issue. That's a supervisory issue. I'd like to believe and hope that that's not going to be the case for the vast majority of staff, and I don't believe that's true. But that's why it's important for us to know, and these are conversations that we have to have. It's not intended to be any reprimand or any of those initial conversations. That's what, again, we're learning. We're under these conditions. But I am going to continue to push for having those direct conversations as professionally, as politely, as courteously as we can, because I do think it's really important, because the more that we bypass or that we can sidestep this, then it's really hard to address where the real issue is. I do like our step 1 where we have kind of multiple kind of opportunities to speak to different people. I do believe what Sandra said in this as well, in respects to like, we have to make sure that our staff is at least posing those questions so that we can make sure that young people feel comfortable approaching when there are issues and challenging situations. That's the only way that you all will learn. That's the only way that we'll continue to learn.
I just unmuted myself. Thank you so much, Principal Q. I would like to ask for any final comments so that we can stay on track to finish at 7:30 with our final agenda topic, which is transitioning after quarantine. Excellent. Awesome. I also have no idea who is running this section. So if somebody would like to unmute themselves and speak up.
I can chime in, and then I'm sure there might be some. I mean, I think one of the things that, throughout this, particularly from early December through January, is that we've had more quarantine situations than we have between September to early December. And throughout, there's been changes in terms of policy from the Department of Ed, and really trying to make sure, and we've been working closely with Ms. Daves and and the rest of the staff are really trying to make sure that we can help young people come back and be productive. All of this is a work in progress. There is no simple solution, particularly when students are quarantining and coming back. One of the things that we've tried to do and really think about the timing of everything is when there is a reported case, Mr. Moran and Ms. Ingram go into action, really try to get all the documentation situated so that we can get in touch with the student and the families about when they can return, while also trying to coordinate with Ms. Daves and Ms. Prabhu and then the rest of the staff, our quarantine list around who's going to be out of school, and then working within the memorandum of agreement so that we can offer, again, asynchronous and synchronous office hours to be able to support students. It's a lot. I mean, I've seen it, particularly since a lot of our teachers teach multiple preps and really trying to figure out how to best throughout their day, whether it's during their prep periods or their free periods, their lunch or after school, and trying to coordinate that. The one fortunate thing is that the numbers are starting to go down, but I think, again, with any transition, we try to make sure we're communicating with students, whether it's the teachers, whether it's the counseling team, and just being aware of who is out. I will firmly be upfront about this. The list at one point in early December when we first came back was really overwhelming for everyone, I'm sure. And when you have more students than we're accustomed to seeing, being out, particularly for our attendance, 1 week was just hovering around 85 to 86% attendance. Again, we're not accustomed to that. So it's been a work in progress. I hope the students who have, had to quarantine and come back, that, they're continuing to communicate. Again, we talked about the resources at the very beginning with social workers and such. Like, again, if there are issues that are happening, whether, as a result of COVID or not, we tried to make sure that we're in the know so that we can provide the support. I do know that, again, as a result of COVID and some of the kind of circumstances, we've been very fortunate that the students and the families have, communicated that to us, particularly when situations are challenging at home. And a big, thank you to the PA and our alumni for providing additional support, because, again, every circumstance is a little bit different, and we're trying to help students reacclimate when they are away. And, the one thing I will say about our students is when they know they're going to be out, they do not hesitate to reach out very, very quickly before we can even actually do our part. So I think just in terms of the transition itself, my hope is that the numbers will continue to go down and we will see, again, continued or improved attendance as we have seen starting last week. But I think if there's other recommendations or suggestions, would love to hear it. We're more than open and to hear how we can best, again, help our young people transition back in from quarantine.
Shivali?
Yeah, I had a question. Thank you, Principal Yu. I had a question directed more towards teachers and their experiences over the past few weeks with this new office hours implementation. Like, have you guys found that this has been like an effective resource students are actually utilizing, or like, in your opinions, would there be a better way of catching students up?
I know that for me, my quarantine kids have been coming to the office hours that I've been holding, and then I've just ended up recording them and then posting them to Google Classroom so that the kids had lecture recorded for the topic so that all my students could take advantage of it. But that's just what I was doing since I was just basically lecturing for an hour. But definitely all my kids that were out came. So they found it useful.
And I can answer that, Shivali, too. So just so everyone knows, every morning, every teacher gets a list of which students are quarantined in our inbox every single morning by 8:30 in the morning. So we know who to address. We do an hour of Zoom or Google Meet each week when we have a student or more on the list. Students have been coming. One thing to also keep in mind is that when these office hours were designed, who a quarantined student was different, because in the fall, a quarantined student, many of them in the fall would be students who had been a close contact, who weren't vaccinated and had been a close contact. So those quarantined students were likely feeling, they may have been feeling fine. Now our quarantine students are the ones that are actually sick. So, the students that are coming to office hours are the ones that have COVID, but are probably feeling well enough to be able to attend a Zoom, which says a lot about the students if they're sick with COVID and they're coming to the Zoom. It's not, ideal that we are offering, Shivali asked, is there a better way to do this? I don't know if there is. I mean, having it available to them if they feel well enough, I think is great. But unfortunately, just the structure of how it is, people might be sick and might not be able to attend. So there might be some teachers that might not be getting all their students because they have COVID and they're resting. But I don't know if there's another solution for that because they're not feeling well at the moment. I don't know if you have an idea.
Dr. Ned?
I reach out to them directly if they're on the list. I found the lecture is much less effective. I mean, they can read the stuff on their own. They may have a few questions. What's really important is making sure they know what they're behind in, what they have left to do, especially at end term. So I've been doing a lot of like hands-on, did you do? And if there's more than a couple, it's a little harder because you don't want to tell everybody you don't have to discuss grades. You can just talk about missed work and a work plan. And that's been really helpful for me getting work from people who were maybe behind a little bit before they got sick. They don't all come largely, I think Ms. Davis is correct, because they're not feeling well. I mean, like a large number of them are symptomatic and have discovered that they're sick because they were symptomatic and they took the home test and they know that they're sick. And this has just been, it's really a strain on them at this time of year because they literally asked me, should I come in because I'm worried about missing all my finals? And I'm like, you definitely should stay home until you're better. And I say it consistently. I say it in class. I've been saying it for over a month. Before this all got big, I've been saying it. And they know. I say it almost every morning. So, I mean, and they're gradually getting better, but this is a very trying time of year for them. And they need us. And I try to do the best I can with it.
Yeah, and that's just something similar in that, like, stay home. We'll catch you up, stay healthy, rest, and we'll give you what you need.
Nav?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Dr. Ned was saying. If I had like one suggestion, if only, it would just be for teachers maybe to update their classrooms, like the assignments, because what I've noticed in my classes where the teachers post every single assignment we have to do on Classroom and post their PowerPoint from that day, like their lectures, like Ms. Maggio was saying. In those classes, a lot of my students who have been quarantined are totally fine. Like they know the assignments they have to do, and they reach out to their teachers, letting them know, oh, I know this is due then, but can I have this grace period? And the teachers would give it to them. So I think that, but then I have some teachers who don't really ever update their Google Classroom, don't post their lesson plans, and they also only tell us about the homework or the tests we have in class. And I think that if it could be suggested to teachers that they post all the assignments and the due dates on their Google Classroom or on some sort of online forum, I think that would be really helpful for the students who are at home.
Thank you, Nav. Principal Yu, your hand's still up?
Yep, just one thing that I want to just, this question's come up. There is no remote learning option available outside of the synchronous office hours, particularly for quarantines or students, quarantine students. This question has come up. There's been speculation in the media. I know at one point the mayor and the chancellor had talked about it, but there have not been any definitive plans nor how that would ever be operationalized. I know both the teachers union and the administrator union have been in conversations, but I would just want to make that clear because I've gotten questions around that. When there is more guidance and a definitive kind of answer about the possibility of a remote learning option, we will provide that quickly, but currently there is no option at this point.
Thank you, Principal Yu. Any other comments or questions or ideas? Oh, y'all, you're amazing. Miss Ingram is our observer here.
Well, they were a minute ago. Let me just check again. Excuse me. Didn't realize you were done so quick.
I mean, I like to stay on schedule. So while we're waiting to see if our observer is still here, just want to clarify, we have no more transitioning comments or concerns?
And you do not have a commenter.
And our February meeting is February
8th. So it's right around the corner because
wait, that's so soon.
No, I know. So we'll have we'll be
okay.
working with the all the constituent leads to get some agenda items. Also, I think we're shifting the co-chair. I think it's going to be shifting as well. And then I think for right now, because it's still where we are and it's February 8th, I would suggest that we keep this one more Zoom for February. And then hopefully that starting in March, we can be back in person. But I think 6 o'clock as well seemed to be the common or favored time.
Well, then in that case, I will see everybody in 2 weeks, y'all. Stay warm. Have a good night. See you in February.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Bye.